The battlefield drifted in silence now. The final screams long faded into the vacuum. Broken hulls of human refugee vessels spiraled among the asteroid belt like scattered bones, cracked open by plasma fire and kinetic railgun bursts. Their last transmission had been defiant, almost poetic, something about Earth's sky being brighter than any sun the Dominion could extinguish. Warlord Circa of the Krull Dominion stood on the observation deck of his dread cruiser, Threnic, its walls grown from the fused carapaces of conquered war beasts. The vessel's interior pulsed with reddish light, a living thing thrumming in time with its master's heartbeat. At his back, the Honor Guard, hulking reptilian warriors adorned with the polished femurs of their past victims, waited in reverent silence. But Circa was not watching the wreckage. His gaze was locked on the stasis pod just now being carried in, the mist hissing off its edges as internal systems thawed the prize within. The human was still alive when they'd captured him, barely. The last captain of the refugee flotilla. Male, middle-aged, gray in the beard and bones, a faded military tattoo on his forearm. Ephes Night Warden. The Dominion believed in devouring knowledge, quite literally. Bone memory was the foundation of their rule. Every sentient species in the galaxy stored fragments of memory, instinct, and cultural legacy in their bone matrix. When consumed through ancient ritual, accompanied by precise neural stimulants and trance chants, the eater could absorb slices of the dead's essence, strategy, language, even flashes of emotion. Warlords like Circa rose not by blood alone, but by what they consumed. Warriors chose bones like collectors chose wine, with nuance and arrogance. Bring him forth, Circa commanded, his voice guttural, booming in the chamber. He dies with purpose. The humans stirred as they lifted him from the pod. His eyelids fluttered. He tried to speak, failed, then locked eyes with the warlord. He did not plead, did not curse, only whispered, "Enjoy the trip." The bone saws hummed a life. The ritual chamber was silent but for the low chants of the bone scribes. The human skull, polished and set in obsidian, was offered on a ritual plate. Beside it lay the femurs, spinal fragments, and teeth, each a different flavor of experience, cataloged and prepared for consumption. Circa knelt before the offering. He was no savage. He understood the sanctity of what he was doing. Consumption was not barbarism. It was the ultimate communion. To know one's enemy so intimately was a form of respect. He had devoured the bones of Krull tacticians, Sevellan diplomats, and even a few rogue Dominion prophets. Each meal had changed him, strengthened him. The first bite was the femur. Memory hit like plasma fire. A small room, wood-paneled, a fireplace, flickering. A woman's voice, warm and amused, teasing someone about overcooked pasta. The smell of something earthy and sweet. Coffee, laughter, children, music from an ancient piano. Then, sirens, bombardment, the family screaming. The man, this human captain, running with his daughter in his arms, while the stars above turned red. Circa staggered, his massive frame trembling. What is this?" he growled. The bone scribes exchanged wary glances. This was not uncommon. Alien memory often disoriented the consumer. But Circa had never reacted this violently before. Still breathing heavily, the warlord reached for the spinal segment and bit. A battlefield, mud and blood. The captain, younger now, screaming orders as Dominion drones descend like locusts. Gunfire, panic. Then, a quiet moment. The human kneeling beside a dying Krull warrior, offering water, comforting the enemy. Why? Another shift. The same man helping refugees into a shuttle, alone against dozens of Krull raiders. Buying time, bleeding, laughing in defiance. Circa roared, stumbling to his knees. Visions poured into him, too fast, too rich, too human. His heartbeat raced. He saw stars through unfamiliar eyes. Saw Earth, blue and whole. Heard music made not for conquest, but beauty. He grabbed the skull. "No," cried one of the scribes. "Too fast, warlord." Too late. Circa bit into the cranium. There was no battle this time. No war. No dying. Just a man, sitting at a desk, writing a letter to a child unborn. Explaining why he chose to stay behind. Why some things were worth fighting for, even when you knew you'd lose. His voice was calm, almost tired. I hope you get to dance someday, he said to the camera. Under a sky that isn't on fire. He smiled. The chamber erupted in howls as Circa collapsed. His guards rushed to his side, only to recoil in confusion. Their lord was laughing, not a victorious, guttural laugh, but something else, something softer, unfamiliar. Tears leaked from the corners of his eyes, something the crawl physiology wasn't even supposed to be capable of. He stared at his own claws, as if seeing them for the first time. We are wrong, he whispered. Vrek, his second-in-command, stood in the shadows, watching with mounting dread. It wasn't just madness. It was contamination. Human bones weren't just laced with memory. They changed the eater. And now their warlord, the Butcher of Zethern, was muttering about sunsets and children and choices. This is a sickness, Vrek said coldly. A mind virus. The bones must be burned. But even as he said it, something inside him, a flicker of curiosity, a trace of doubt, made him hesitate. 3 days later, Circa emerged from isolation. He had painted his armor. Gone was the jagged, blood-colored warplate. Now it shimmered with abstract patterns. Oceans, mountains, clouds, things the crawl did not depict. He stood before his war council and issued a command that sent shockwaves across the Dominion. We will not consume human bones anymore, he said. We will not wage war on their kind. Silence. One of the warlords sneered. Have you gone mad? Circa tilted his head. No. I have gone human. Back in the bone vault, where the rest of the remains were stored, Vrek stood in silence. He held a small shard of rib bone in his claw. He had not told anyone. Not yet. He stared at it, and he wondered, what if the infection wasn't a sickness? What if it was truth? He put the fragment in a pouch, sealed it, and left. Outside, the Dominion burned brighter than ever, but now something new moved beneath the ash, something born of Earth, something dangerous. The Dominion did not tolerate deviation. The moment Warlord Circa declared his heresy, declaring peace with humanity and forbidding the consumption of their bones, rumors sparked like dry leaves in plasma fire. By the time his command reached the outer sectors, those rumors had become nightmares. The Butcher of Zethern had gone mad, they said. The humans had poisoned his mind. His flagship, Thrennic, was now a temple of sickness, filled with corrupted memories and alien music. And across the Dominion, every warlord listened with growing unease. None more so than Vrek, Circa's second-in-command. Vrek stood at the command altar aboard the cruiser Void Spear, a smaller vessel currently shadowing the Thrennic as it floated silently in orbit over a shattered moon. Vrek's yellow eyes narrowed as he watched the larger ship through the observation slit. No battle patrols, no weapon locks. Thrennic's defenses were active, but passive. Worse still, open comms transmitted alien songs. Strings, wind instruments. No structure, no purpose, just sound for its own sake. Madness. He turned to the two subcommanders kneeling behind him. Has he left the bridge since the broadcast? No, Exalted One said. He meditates. He speaks in fragments. He paints. Vrek repeated with a hiss. On a warship? The scribe flinched. Yes, Exalted One. Organic pigments across his quarters. Images. Oceans. Fire. Children. The word hung in the air like a blade. Vrek turned away, jaw tight. Circa had once shattered a prison moon with orbital fire when it refused tribute. He had skinned a rebel seer alive on live broadcast. And now he was sketching children and humming songs. Vrek had waited, observed, hoped the madness would pass. But now he knew. The infection was real, and it was spreading. Deep inside Thrennic, behind sealed doors guarded by only a single, half-board sentry, lay the lowest of the vessel's chambers. The vault, a repurposed cargo hold, now used to house the latest captured batch of humans taken from the destroyed refugee flotilla. They were not many, perhaps 20, survivors of a dozen nations, 2 ships, and one miracle, someone had overcharged a distress beacon, drawing enough attention for the Dominion to pause and take. Not kill, not incinerate, but capture. The reason? Study. Among the prisoners was Lena Armitage, though she hadn't used that name in a long time, not since Earth fell. She sat cross-legged in the corner of the vault, eyes closed, hands resting lightly on her knees, her breath steady. Around her, the others whispered. Some wept, One sang softly to herself, but Lena waited, listened. She was trained to hear things others missed. Shifts in tension, language patterns, silence filled with intent. That's what years of infiltration work did to you. She wasn't just a refugee. She was part of the fallback protocols, one of the memory keepers. Agents seeded into refugee streams in case humanity's end became not just likely, but inevitable. If they couldn't win, they'd make sure no one else won either. Lena opened her eyes as the vault door hissed and opened. Two guards entered. Behind them floated a drone, needle-thin, veined with green light, lenses twitching. "Stand," barked one of the guards. "The warlord wishes questions." Several humans shrank back. One vomited, but Lena rose. She smiled just enough to show strength, not threat. "Take me to him," she said. Circus sat cross-legged before a massive wall covered in sweeping arcs of red, blue, and yellow pigment. It was an abstract, spiraling design, like a storm, if the storm dreamed. He did not turn as the guards shoved Lena forward. But when she spoke, he froze. "You hear them still, don't you?" she said softly. "The echoes." Slowly, Circa turned. His eyes were bloodshot, not from fatigue, but from feeling. Human tear ducts weren't part of crawl physiology, but he had wept anyway. Something had ruptured inside him, something deep and ancient. "I dreamed of a mountain last night," he said, "covered in green. No fire, no screaming." A child laughed. He paused, then looked at her. "I have never dreamed before." Lena inclined her head. "You will now." "Why?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, "Do you remember his name? The man you ate?" Circa's expression shifted. For a moment, Lena thought he wouldn't speak. Then, Captain Elias Monroe, Earth Federal Ship Night Warden, father of two, amateur composer. Lena smiled. "He died knowing what we'd done, what we'd become, that he carried it in his marrow." The warlord's jaw clenched. "You did this on purpose." Lena nodded. "Our scientists called it Project Kairos. Our last weapon, a viral memory override, bio-coded in our bone marrow. Human memory, human emotion, coded, sharpened, turned into a spike. Not just facts, convictions." She took a step closer. "Every time one of you eats us, you become more like us. You feel, and you can't stop it." Circa looked down at his hands. "I see fire and weep for what I've done. I feel guilt." "That's the idea," Lena said. "Clever," he whispered. "And cruel." She said nothing. He looked at her again. "Would you volunteer?" Lena blinked. "You want to eat me?" "No. Not consume. Observe. I would speak with you again. These feelings, they burn. I would know more." She crossed her arms. "Then bring the others out of that vault. And stop treating them like livestock." A pause, then a slow nod. Hours later, aboard the Void Spear, Vrek received the report. Circa had ordered the human prisoners relocated to guest quarters. He was speaking with them, learning from them. The infection had not only spread, it had mutated. Worse, the human female was believed to be one of the architects of this psychological contagion. Vrek's claws drummed on the war table. He summoned his comms officer. Broadcast to high command, he ordered, "I request immediate authorization for containment measures. The Threnic is compromised." The officer hesitated. Vrek's eyes narrowed. "Do you hesitate to obey?" "No, Exalted One. Only, I was remembering something strange. From the battle over Rhea 9. That was months ago." "Yes, Exalted One. But the humans, they sang as we breached their ship. Not war songs. Lullabies." He looked down, "And I remember the sound more than the screams." Back on Threnic, Circa and Lena sat alone. He had dismissed his guards. She poured tea, a human gesture, and he accepted the cup awkwardly, his claws barely holding it. "You said it's a virus," he said. "But why? You could have made a toxin, a bomb. Instead this." Lena looked up at him. "We tried bombs. You outgunned us. We tried hiding. You found us." She leaned forward. "But our stories? Our pain? You didn't expect that. We were never the strongest. But we're good at dying loud. We leave echoes. That's what humanity is." Circus stared into his cup, as if it might tell him what to do next. Lena watched him in silence. The war was still raging. Billions were still dying. But here, in the heart of a warlord's flagship, a single human spark had ignited a crack in the Dominion's armor. And that crack was spreading. The corridors of the Threnic hummed with an uneasy energy. What was once a dreadnought of war now felt like a fragile sanctuary, a strange mixture of cold crawl technology and alien human warmth. Warlord Circa's unexpected change of heart had transformed the ship into a place where ideas could clash as fiercely as weapons once had. But not everyone was ready for that. The Krull warlords were ancient, brutal, and deeply suspicious. Circa's decision to spare humans and to engage them in conversation, even cooperation, was seen as weakness bordering on treason. Whispers of rebellion stirred in the lower decks, and the tension grew like an invisible poison. Vrek, Circa's second-in-command, had begun his campaign to root out what he called the infection, a mental corruption spread by human bone memories. His network of informants, spies, and covert operatives worked relentlessly, reporting every unusual conversation, every artistic painting, every human song heard on the Threnic. Tonight was different. Vrek paced his private chambers, eyes narrowed on a datapad glowing with the latest intelligence. The humans are teaching our soldiers to question, his lieutenant reported gravely. Several have refused to participate in bone consumption rituals. Some speak of hope. Vrek's lip curled in disgust. Hope is a weakness. It must be purged. Down in the mess hall, far from the warlord's scrutiny, several Krull warriors sat in quiet contemplation. One of them, a veteran named Crash, fingered a small bone fragment in his claw. It was human, one of the fragments retrieved from a battlefield, still carrying faint impressions of its former owner's memories. Crash had been loyal once, unquestioning and fierce. But now, every time he touched the fragment, images flashed in his mind. A child's laughter, a mother's lullaby, a desperate father's whispered promise. He clenched his jaw. What is happening to me? He wondered. Meanwhile, Lena Armitage moved through the halls with cautious purpose. She had gained some measure of trust from Circa, and the unusual peace aboard the Threnic had allowed her to speak freely with several Krull prisoners and reluctant soldiers. Her mission was clear: understand the spread of the bone infection and find a way to turn it into an advantage for humanity. She met with a small group of Krull soldiers in a dimly lit storage room converted into a makeshift classroom. These warriors had already begun to resist the old ways, questioning the Dominion's relentless hunger for power. We don't want endless war, Lena told them quietly. We want survival and peace. One of the soldiers, a young Krull named Svek, raised his claw. But how do we trust humans? You are our enemies. Lena smiled softly. Because even enemies can be teachers. Because the pain in your memories, it's like ours. And that means we are not so different. Svek looked uncertain, but he nodded slowly. Back on the bridge, Circa meditated on the growing unrest. His body still bore the marks of countless battles, but his mind was no longer confined to the warlord's rage. The memories of Elias Monroe, the human captain whose bones he had consumed, resonated deeply within him. He remembered the captain's final words. I hope you get to dance someday under a sky that isn't on fire. Could the Dominion ever know such peace? His claws hovered over the control panel, then clenched into fists. We must show them a new way, Circa whispered. But change did not come quietly. That night, the ship's alarms blared. Vrek's forces had moved. A faction of loyalist Krull warriors had launched a violent coup attempt, storming through the corridors with plasma weapons blazing. The mess hall became a battleground. Human prisoners caught between furious Krull factions. Lena ducked behind a support pillar, heart pounding. Around her, the fractured piece shattered into screams and flashes of light. Crash, the veteran soldier, fought fiercely, but he hesitated, his mind torn between old loyalty and new memories. A blade swept toward him, but Lena grabbed his arm. Stop, she shouted. This isn't the way. Crash stared into her eyes, into a truth he could no longer deny. He dropped his weapon. In the chaos, Circa emerged, towering and calm. Cease this madness, he roared, voice amplified by the ship's systems. His presence was magnetic. Even Vrek paused, hand on his plasma blade. Your rebellion will fail, Circa declared. We stand on the edge of a new future, one born not of bone and blood, but of understanding. Vrek snarled. You are weak, Circa. This ship, this Dominion, will fall if you embrace human weakness. Circa met his gaze evenly. Then let it fall, he said. The coup collapsed within hours, but the damage was done. The Dominion was fractured, and the bone infection was no longer a secret. From the deepest voids to the shining worlds of the Dominion, whispers spread. A warlord had become human, that the dead bones of Earth carried a virus not of flesh, but of hope. And hope was contagious. As dawn broke over the shattered moon, Circus stood on the observation deck once more, gazing at the stars. Beside him, Lena spoke quietly. This war is bigger than us now. It's about what kind of future we want to leave. Circa nodded. The bones of giants will break or build the stars, and somewhere deep inside, he knew the true battle had only just begun. The Dominion was an empire built on bones. Not just any bones. The bones of defeated enemies. Ossified trophies that carried the memories and strengths of the fallen. The Crawl, towering warriors with jagged claws and armor fused to their skin, revered these relics. Each bone was a testament to conquest, a source of power, and a key to survival in the endless wars that ravaged the stars. But now, the foundation of that empire was cracking. The Threnic floated ominously over the shattered moon of Rhea. The once pristine warship was now a patchwork of blood-streaked corridors, overturned consoles, and silent alarms. The failed coup led by Vrek's loyalists had left scars on the ship, both physical and psychological. Yet in the command deck, Warlord Circus sat poised, no longer a brutal conqueror, but a man transformed by the memories of human bones he had consumed. A strange duality ruled his mind, the fierce, ruthless Crawl leader and the flickering ember of humanity within. The message he sent out now was clear. The Dominion would no longer consume the bones of humans as mere trophies. Instead, they would seek to understand, to learn, to evolve. Across the Dominion, the news spread like wildfire. At first, disbelief. The warlords who ruled the outer sectors sneered at the softness of Circa's rebellion. But the stories grew. Warlords refusing to consume bones, soldiers singing human lullabies, entire fleets hesitating to attack refugee convoys. The Dominion, once a united front, was fracturing. On the distant capital world of Kroshath, High Warlord Veshner stared at the holocom feed with a sneer. Circa's weakness will be his undoing, he spat. He corrupts our bloodline with human madness. I will cleanse the Dominion in fire. Beside him, the Council of Warlords murmured their agreement, their eyes cold and calculating. But beneath the surface, fear festered. What if Circa's transformation was contagious? What if the Dominion itself could be undone by hope? Back on the Threnic, Lena walked the halls, her footsteps echoing in the quiet ship. The human prisoners were now guests of the warlord, their lives spared but uncertain. She paused outside a chamber where a small group of Crawl warriors sat in meditation. They were the converted, those who had embraced the memories and the human bones, who had felt the stirrings of empathy and doubt. One of them, a young warrior named Svek, looked up. "Do you think we can change the Dominion?" he asked softly. Lena smiled, a flicker of hope lighting her eyes. "Change is never easy," she said, "but it starts with a single step." Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. "Impact detected," a voice shouted. The Threnic rocked as an unknown fleet emerged from warp, their ship sleek and dark, cloaked in shadows. An emergency alert flashed on the command console. "They're here," Circa said grimly. "The Loyalists. They've brought reinforcements." The fragile peace was about to shatter. In the ensuing battle, plasma blasts lit up the void. The Threnica's defenses were fierce but strained. Vrek's rebel fleet, now bolstered by fanatical warlords from the capital, pressed hard. Inside the ship, Lena and the converted warriors prepared for boarding. The fight was no longer just about territory. It was a clash of ideologies, of what it meant to be Crawl and what it meant to be human. Amid the chaos, Circa moved with purpose. His claws sliced through invaders, but his true weapon was the words he spoke to his warriors, to the prisoners, to the rebels. "You do not fight your brothers," he shouted. "We are more alike than you think." One of the boarding parties broke through to the inner decks. Vrek himself stepped aboard, his presence like a thunderclap. "Circa," he bellowed, "you betray the Dominion. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Circa met his former second-in-command with cold fury. "The Dominion will fall if it does not evolve," he replied. You cling to death and decay. I embrace life and memory. Their battle was brutal, claws and plasma clashing in deadly arcs. But as they fought, Lena reached out to the combatants around them, urging peace, reminding them of shared memories, shared pain. The battle reached a crescendo when Svek, the young converted warrior, stepped between the two leaders. Enough, he cried. Look around you. What are we fighting for? Bones? Power? Or a future we cannot even imagine? His words echoed in the minds of the fighters. Slowly, weapons lowered. The fire in their eyes softened. In the aftermath, the Dominion was broken, but not destroyed. Circa and Lena forged a new alliance, a coalition of warriors and humans united by shared memories and shared hopes. They knew the road ahead was long and perilous, but the fracture in the Dominion was a beginning, a chance to build something new. As the stars blinked silently overhead, Circa looked to the horizon. The bones of giants may break, he murmured, but from their ashes we will rise. The stars were silent witnesses to the slow unfolding of a new era. The Dominion, once a monolith of relentless warlords bound by blood and bone, now simmered with fragile tensions and restless uncertainty. Circa's rebellion, though victorious in stopping Vrek's coup, had unleashed a ripple across the galaxy, one that threatened to tear the Dominion apart from within. A shattered empire. On the bridge of the Threnic, the massive warship pulsed softly with the rhythm of new hope. The hull still bore scars of recent battle, the acrid scent of scorched metal lingering in the recycled air. Around Circa, the crew was a patchwork of crawl warriors who had embraced change and humans who had survived captivity. But despite the uneasy truce, anxiety ran deep. The Loyalists will not give up, Lena warned as she adjusted the ship's tactical display. Veshner is rallying other warlords. They see your actions as betrayal. Circa's eyes were steady, but the weight of leadership pressed heavily on him. The Dominion cannot survive by devouring bones alone. It must grow beyond that. A young Krull warrior approached, bearing a message encrypted with urgency. Warlord Circa, she said, her voice low and fierce. Multiple systems report rising unrest. Some fleets refuse orders. Others have declared independence. Circa nodded grimly. The fracture spreads, he said. We must act. The call for the gathering. In the vast expanse of Dominion space, a council was convened, a gathering unprecedented in its ambition and peril. Circa sent envoys across the stars, inviting warlords, commanders, and influential leaders to meet aboard the Threnic to discuss the future of the Dominion. Many scoffed at the invitation, calling it a trap, but others, curious, fearful, or hopeful, answered the call. Among the arrivals was High Warlord Malka, a hardened veteran whose fleet had long been a thorn in the Dominion's side. Her sharp eyes and battle-scarred visage told of decades spent in the relentless crucible of war. She regarded Circa cautiously. You want to change the Dominion? She asked. You ask us to lay down our claws and bones? Circa met her gaze steadily. No, he said. I ask us to redefine what it means to be Krull, to survive not by consumption, but by alliance, by understanding. Malka's lips twitched into a grim smile. Then let us see if your vision can survive the storm. The shadow of Veshner. Far from the Threnic, High Warlord Veshner plotted his next move. He had retreated to his fortress world, surrounded by loyal fleets and fanatical followers. The rebellion grows, his lieutenant warned. If we do not act decisively, the Dominion will collapse. Veshner's eyes blazed with fury. The Krull were born from war, he growled, not peace. I will show them the strength of the old ways. He summoned his generals for a dark council. We strike at the heart, he declared. The Threnic must fall. Circa must die. Uneasy alliances. Back on the Threnic, tensions simmered beneath the surface of the gathering council. Debates flared over strategy, philosophy, and the very nature of Krull identity. Svek, the young warrior who had brokered peace during the coup, stood beside Lena during one heated session. Can we truly trust these warlords? Lena whispered. Svek nodded thoughtfully. Trust is a new weapon, one we must learn to wield. A faction led by Warlord Rishka, a brutal commander who still clung fiercely to the old Dominion ways, vocally opposed Circa's ideas. Sentiment is weakness, Rishka spat. Bones are power. Without them, we are nothing. Circa faced her calmly. Without change, we are extinct, he replied. Without hope, the Dominion dies. Seeds of revolution. Outside the council chambers, a silent revolution brewed. Among the lower ranks of the Krull fleets and human allies, whispers of rebellion and hope spread like wildfire. In quiet corners, secret meetings were held. Plans made to support the new vision, to protect those who embraced it, and to challenge those who opposed it. Lena moved among these groups, her presence a beacon of cautious optimism. She knew the coming storm would not be won by weapons alone. It would be won by the courage to believe in something greater. The storm breaks. Weeks passed, and the fragile unity of the council was tested by acts of sabotage, betrayal, and mounting fear. Then came the night the Threnika's alarm screamed again. Enemy ships, cloaked in darkness, surged toward the warship. This is no random attack, Lena said sharply. Veshnir's forces. The battle that followed was brutal and desperate. The Threnika's defenders fought with fierce determination, but the Loyalists had grown stronger, bolder. Circus stood on the bridge, rallying his warriors. We fight not just for survival, he shouted. We fight for the future of the Dominion. The clash of plasma and claw echoed through the void as the war for the soul of the Dominion reached a critical turning point. A new dawn. As dawn's pale light broke over the horizon of the shattered moon, the battle's echoes faded. The Thrennic still floated, battered but unbroken. Circa and Lena stood side by side, surveying the aftermath. This is only the beginning, Lena said softly. Circa's eyes were steely with resolve. The Dominion will fracture, he said, but from those fractures, a new star will rise. The gathering storm had broken, but its fury had forged something new, an uncertain hope, a fragile alliance. And somewhere in the stars beyond, humanity and Krull would shape the fate of the galaxy together. The Thrennic drifted quietly through the void, a battered sentinel amidst the fractured stars of the Dominion. The recent battle had left scars etched deep into its hull, but inside, a different kind of healing was underway. The physical wounds were easy to see, but the true challenge was stitching together the fragile unity among those who now shared a common purpose, Krull and human alike. The New Order. Days after the attack, the atmosphere aboard the Thrennic was a mix of cautious optimism and simmering tension. Circus sat in the council chamber, which had been hastily refurbished to accommodate an unusual mix of delegates. The room was a microcosm of the Dominion's transformation. Krull warriors with jagged claws and hardened armor, humans in pragmatic jumpsuits, and hybrids who bore the marks of both species. Lena stood by his side, a symbol of the new alliance. Her calm presence and sharp mind had been crucial in navigating the cultural chasms that separated their peoples. Circa's voice carried weight as he addressed the council. The old ways have brought us to the edge of extinction, he said. The bones we consumed gave us strength, yes, but they also blinded us. It is time to forge a new path, one not of conquest, but of coexistence. Some of the warlords exchanged uneasy glances. The old guard was not easily convinced. The human perspective. Lena's role was as much ambassador as strategist. She understood that for humans, this was not just a political alliance. It was a profound challenge to their survival and dignity. In a quiet chamber, Lena met with a group of human representatives who had traveled aboard the Thrennic to support the fragile peace. Your people carry centuries of pain, she acknowledged. The Dominion's wars have shattered countless worlds, but you also carry resilience, strength born from hope, not fear. A young human named Kai, once a prisoner, nodded. We want peace, Kai said, but peace means trust, and trust takes time and action. Lena smiled softly. Then we build that trust, one step at a time. Cultural exchange. To bridge the divide, Circa initiated a series of cultural exchanges, not just between the elites, but among the ranks. Human and Krull soldiers trained side by side. Stories were shared around makeshift fires in the ship's common areas. Music, once alien and abrasive to Krull ears, began to weave its way through the corridors. One evening, Lena found herself sitting beside Svek, the young Krull warrior who had once stood against the coup. What do you see when you listen to human music? She asked. Svek thought for a moment. It is strange. It carries memories, feelings. Not just strength or battle cries, but sorrow, joy, hope. Lena nodded. Music can be a bridge between worlds. It reminds us we all share the same echoes, the ghosts of the past. Despite these hopeful signs, the past lingered like a shadow. One afternoon, Circa received a message from a distant sector, a plea for help from a human colony besieged by rogue warlords who refused to acknowledge the new alliance. The colony's fate was a test. Could the fragile coalition act together to protect those who had been enemies? Circa convened the council. We cannot ignore their suffering, he said. If we fail here, the fractures will deepen. Warlord Malka, her voice steady, agreed. This will show if we are truly united, or if the Dominion's old wounds still bleed. Battle for redemption. The campaign to save the colony was swift and decisive. Joint crawl human forces landed on the besieged world, facing off against vicious mercenaries who thrived in chaos. Lena commanded the human contingents, coordinating with Malka and Svek, who led crawl units. The battle was fierce, with moments that tested loyalties and resolve. In the heat of combat, Lena saw Svek risking his life to shield a group of human civilians, a stark symbol of the Alliance's new reality. A hard-won peace. When the dust settled, the colony was saved. The victory was more than military, it was symbolic. For the first time, Crawl and humans fought side by side not as enemies, but as protectors of a shared future. News of the victory spread quickly through Dominion space, inspiring others to reconsider their stance. Circa's message echoed across the stars. We are not defined by the bones we carry, but by the lives we choose to protect. Personal bonds. In the quiet moments after the battle, Lena and Circa met in the ship's observation deck, gazing out at the infinite expanse of stars. We have come far, Lena said softly, but the path ahead is still uncertain. Circa nodded. The echoes of the past will always be with us, but they do not have to define us. He turned to her with a rare vulnerability. Thank you, Lena, for showing me that strength can come from more than claws and bones. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the distant galaxies. And thank you for believing that change is possible. The future beckons. As the Threnic continued its journey through fractured space, the Alliance grew stronger. New systems joined the coalition, drawn by the promise of peace and the hope of rebuilding a broken empire. But in the far reaches, the Loyalists still plotted. Veshner's shadow lingered, a reminder that the war for the Dominion's soul was far from over. Yet for the first time, a new sound rippled through the void, the harmonious echo of unity. And that echo was unstoppable. The fragile unity forged aboard the Threnic was a beacon of hope across the fractured Dominion. Yet, as with any fragile peace born from the ashes of war, it faced relentless pressure from within and without. The alliance that had saved the colony and sparked new hope now confronted its greatest challenge, surviving the fractures that threatened to tear it apart before it could fully take root. Uneasy peace. The council chamber aboard the Threnic was filled with a tension as thick as the recycled air. War-hardened crawl warlords sat opposite human leaders and hybrids, all bound by a mutual desire for peace, but divided by decades, centuries, of mistrust, prejudice, and fear. Circa, the new warlord commander, presided over the gathering, his imposing presence a steady anchor amid the unrest. We stand at a crossroads, he began. We have proven we can fight together, but now we must learn to live together. That will be the true test of our alliance. Warlord Rishka, a fierce crawl veteran who had survived countless battles, sneered. Words are cheap. Trust is forged in blood and bone, not speeches. Lena responded calmly, then let our actions speak louder than words. The attack on the colony was a start, but peace requires more than defense. It requires cooperation, understanding, and sacrifice. The murmurs in the chamber revealed the fractures hidden beneath the surface, old grudges, political ambitions, and fear of losing power. Hidden agendas. Beneath the council's official meetings, whispers of dissent swirled like a toxic fog. Some crawl warlords viewed the alliance as a betrayal, a dilution of their savage heritage. Others feared human influence would strip them of their identity. In a dimly lit war room on the lower decks, Warlord Rishka met with a small cadre of loyalists. The humans seek to tame us, she growled. They want to chain the wild beast and call it civilization. Her lieutenant, a scarred veteran named Torvak, nodded. Veshner waits. If we strike now, we can break the fragile peace and restore the Dominion's true strength. Rishka's eyes gleamed with dark purpose. We will remind them what it means to be Kral. Bonds tested. Meanwhile, aboard the Thrennik, Lena and Svek continued their efforts to build bridges between their peoples. One afternoon, during a joint training exercise, Lena noticed the strain on the faces of Kral warriors. Svek approached her, his usually confident demeanor tinged with doubt. Some of our people do not accept this alliance, he admitted. They see humans as weak, unworthy of trust. Lena nodded. And some humans fear the Kral's strength, but fear will only fuel the fire of division. Svek looked out at the training grounds, where Kral and humans sparred and practiced tactics side by side. We must find a way to make them see that our strength lies in unity, he said quietly. A catalyst for change. Suddenly, a message arrived from a nearby system. A plea for aid from a small Kral colony under threat from marauding pirates. The council saw this as an opportunity. If we respond together, Circus said, we prove the alliance is more than words. Lena volunteered to lead the human contingent, while Warlord Malka commanded the Kral forces. Svek would coordinate their joint operations. As preparations began, tension simmered between the two commanders. Malka's combat style was brutal and direct, shaped by decades of war. Lena's approach favored precision and protection. Their differences reflected the larger challenge facing the alliance, reconciling divergent traditions into a cohesive force. The Battle of Varesh. The mission took them to Varesh, a rocky planet scarred by constant conflict. Pirate fleets had terrorized the colony, cutting off supplies and threatening annihilation. The combined forces descended in sleek dropships, prepared for a swift and decisive strike. The initial assault went well. Kral shock troops tore through pirate defenses while human snipers provided cover. But as the battle wore on, the pirates unleashed a hidden weapon, a bioengineered monstrosity that shredded armor and tore through ranks. Panic rippled through the Allied forces. Malka barked orders, pushing her warriors to fight harder. Lena adapted quickly, coordinating medics and retreat paths. Svek fought fiercely, saving a group of human fighters trapped by the beast. The battle became a crucible, testing the alliance's resilience and cohesion. Fractures surfaced. Despite their efforts, cracks appeared. Malka accused Lena of holding back, mistrusting human caution. Lena retorted that Malka's tactics risked unnecessary losses. Svek found himself mediating heated arguments even as the battle raged around them. The struggle mirrored the broader tension between Kral tradition and the New Order, turning the tide. When the biomonster advanced to the colony's central outpost, it seemed all was lost. But then, Lena and Malka devised a daring plan. Using a combination of Kral brute force and human technology, they lured the beast into a trap. A coordinated strike brought it down, and the pirates' morale shattered. The Allied forces secured Varesh, hard-won respect. After the battle, the commanders gathered in the ruined outpost. Malka, nursing a wound, looked at Lena with newfound respect. You fight well, human, she admitted gruffly. Lena smiled. And you fight with honor, Kral? Svek stood between them, feeling the fragile threads of trust beginning to weave. The cost of unity. But victory came at a price. Many soldiers, human and Kral, were lost. The cost weighed heavily on the survivors. Circa received word of another attack, this time targeting human settlements allied with the Dominion. The cycle of violence threatened to undo the fragile peace. The choice ahead. Back aboard the Thrennik, the council reconvened. Circa faced a difficult decision. Do we continue to fight for this alliance, knowing the cost? Malka spoke for many. It is not easy, but the alternative is extinction. Lena added, we must be stronger together or fall divided. Circa's gaze swept the room. The Dominion's future depends on us all. Let this be the fracture that binds, not breaks. A fragile hope. As the Thrennik sailed onward, the Alliance faced an uncertain future. The warlords, humans, and hybrids aboard were bound by a fragile hope that despite their differences, They could forge a new destiny. But the shadows of the past loomed large. Veshner's loyalists plotted in the dark. The galaxy watched, waiting to see if the fractured alliance could hold, or if it would shatter, plunging the Dominion into chaos once more. The victory at Varesh was a milestone, but it was also a spark that ignited the darkest fears hidden within the Dominion's fractured heart. While the alliance aboard the Threnic struggled to maintain unity, unseen forces stirred in the shadows, loyalists to the deposed warlord Veshner, determined to reclaim their power and shatter the fragile peace. The darkness within, deep in the uncharted regions of the Dominion, far from the Threnic and its council, a secret base buzzed with quiet urgency. Veshner had vanished after his defeat, but his influence was far from extinguished. In a cavernous war room carved into a jagged asteroid, a cadre of loyalists gathered around a holographic map flickering with static. At their center stood Maresh, Veshner's second-in-command, a calculating and ruthless crawl with sharp eyes and a colder heart. "Our master's defeat is temporary," Maresh declared, voice low but fierce. "The Dominion will remember its true path, the path of conquest and strength, not weakness and compromise." One of the younger commanders, a brash warrior named Korak, slammed a fist on the table. "The Threnic is weak, divided. We strike there, and the alliance will crumble." Maresh nodded slowly. "Patience. The shadows will do their work. We must sow discord, undermine trust, and wait for the perfect moment." Espionage and sabotage. Back aboard the Threnic, Lena was the first to sense the shift. Reports of sabotage aboard the ship, systems malfunctioning, supplies disappearing, communications mysteriously cut, hinted at a mole in their midst. The uneasy peace aboard the vessel was threatened not only by external enemies, but by betrayal from within. Lena convened a small security council with Svek and Malka. "We have an enemy inside," she said grimly. "Someone is working to weaken us from within." Svek's claws flexed. "We will find them." Malka's eyes narrowed. "And we will make them pay." The hunt begins. Security teams swept through the Threnic, questioning crew members and scanning for unusual activity. Suspicion fell on many, deepening the distrust between Krall and human factions. In the mess hall, whispered accusations sparked heated arguments. Even old wounds reopened, threatening to tear apart what little trust had been built. Lena found herself caught in the middle, working to calm tempers while piecing together clues. A secret meeting. One night, under the dim lights of a hidden corridor, Lena intercepted a coded transmission. It revealed plans for a coordinated attack on the colony they had just saved, the very heart of the Alliance. She shared the information immediately with Circa and the Council. "This is Veshner's loyalists," Circa said, his voice hard as steel. "They want to undo everything we have built." Malka slammed her fist on the table. "Then we will stop them before they can strike." Preparing for war, the Council mobilized quickly. Defenses were bolstered around the colony. Joint patrols were increased. Training intensified as the Alliance braced for an imminent attack. Yet, beneath the surface, doubts gnawed at many. Could this alliance withstand the treachery and violence waiting in the dark? The Night of Fire. Weeks later, the attack came under the cover of darkness. Pirate ships, bolstered by loyalist Krall mercenaries, descended on the colony in a violent blitz. Explosions lit the sky as defensive turrets fired into the void. Lena led emergency evacuation efforts while Svek and Malka commanded ground forces. The battle was chaotic, brutal, a test of the Alliance's will. Amid the firefight, Lena spotted a figure moving with deadly precision, a saboteur infiltrating their command center. She pursued, weaving through corridors ablaze with alarms. The saboteur revealed. Cornering the intruder, Lena was shocked to find a human officer she had trusted. "Why?" Lena demanded, breathless. The officer's eyes gleamed with cold fanaticism. "For Veshner," he whispered. "The Dominion must return to its true path." Lena's heart clenched. The enemy was not just alien. It was familiar. The tide turns. With the saboteur captured, the Alliance rallied. Svek led a counterattack that pushed the Loyalists back, while Malka coordinated reinforcements from the Threnic. Lena worked tirelessly to restore order and morale. As dawn broke over the smoking colony, The invaders were driven off, but the cost was high. Aftermath and resolve. In the quiet aftermath, Circa addressed the council. The shadows of Veshner still linger, he said solemnly, but they will not define us. Lena added, our strength lies in our unity, not just our weapons. Malka nodded. We fight not only for survival, but for a future where the Dominion can heal. Svek's voice was steady. We will face whatever comes. Together, a new beginning. Though battered and weary, the Alliance emerged stronger. The shadows cast by Veshner's loyalists would not be banished overnight, but the light of hope burned brighter than ever. As the Thrinic prepared to depart, Lena and Circa stood side by side. The fight is far from over, Circa said, but we are ready, Lena replied. Together, they looked out into the vast, star-studded expanse, ready to face the trials ahead and carve a new destiny from the ashes of the old. The uneasy calm that followed the failed attack by Veshner's loyalists gave the Thrinic a brief respite. But the past, like a phantom in the dark, was far from done with the Dominion. Whispers of ancient knowledge, secrets buried deep within forgotten worlds, began to resurface. These secrets promised power beyond imagination, but also carried dangers that could unravel the fragile alliance the survivors had fought so hard to build. A message from the deep. It was Svek who first noticed the encrypted transmission, buried beneath routine communications from the outer sectors. The signal was old, ancient by Dominion standards, and carried a cryptic warning. Coordinates to the world of Arcanis, Svek said, as narrowing as he decrypted the message. A lost planet, said to hold technology from before the Dominion's rise. Lena studied the message carefully. Pre-Dominion technology? If true, this could be the key to strengthening our alliance or destroying it. Circa, standing nearby, weighed the risk. Arcanis is deep in uncharted space. If Veshner's loyalists get there first, the consequences would be catastrophic. The council agreed. An expedition was necessary. If the secrets of Arcanis could be found and understood, they could tip the balance of power and secure the Dominion's future, or doom it entirely. Preparing the expedition. The Thrinic prepared for the mission with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Scientists, engineers, and military advisors joined the crew, ready to explore what had been lost to time. Among them was Dr. Alina Merrick, a brilliant archaeologist whose expertise in ancient technologies was unmatched. She had spent years studying ruins and relics from the Dominion's early days, but nothing as promising as what awaited on Arcanis. We must be cautious, Alina warned during a briefing. Many ancient technologies are unstable or incomprehensible. They are not gifts, but puzzles, and sometimes traps. Lena nodded. Our priority is securing the technology, but we must not forget the lives at stake. This is more than a treasure hunt. Journey into the unknown. The journey to Arcanis was perilous. Navigating uncharted space meant constant risk. Asteroid fields, rogue storms, and spatial anomalies that tested the ship's limits. The crew's nerves stretched thin as they crossed each light year. Suspicion lingered. Some questioned whether Veshner's spies had infiltrated their ranks, waiting to sabotage the mission. Svek and Malka increased security patrols, and Lena worked tirelessly to maintain morale. When Arcanis finally appeared on the horizon, a cold, barren world cloaked in strange energy, hope and dread warred in the hearts of all aboard. Arrival and first impressions. Landing on Arcanis was like stepping into a dream from a forgotten age. Towering ruins stretched across the desolate landscape, vast structures of unknown origin, half buried in dust and shadow. The air crackled with strange energy, humming softly beneath the stillness. Alina led the team into the ruins, her eyes wide with awe and determination. This place predates even the Dominion's earliest records, she explained. We are walking through the remnants of a civilization lost to time. The relics awaken. As they explored deeper, the team uncovered relics of advanced technology, machines with no clear purpose, devices that pulsed with dormant power. In one chamber, Alina found a pedestal inscribed with strange glyphs. When she activated it, a holographic map projected into the air, showing star systems, energy networks, and mysterious points marked the core. This is a key, she said breathlessly. A map to the heart of an ancient power. But with the activation came a warning. a hidden defense mechanism triggered by their intrusion. Suddenly, ancient sentinels, robotic guardians, awakened, their eyes glowing red as they surged to defend the ruins. Fight for survival. The team scrambled to evade the sentinels' attacks. Laser beams sliced through the dusty corridors, and crumbling walls threatened to collapse. Svek and Malka fought valiantly, protecting the scientists as they searched for a way to disable the defense system. Lena coordinated the retreat, ordering the team to split up and regroup at the landing site. The ruins became a labyrinth of danger, and every corner held the potential for death. The core revealed. Against all odds, Alina deciphered the glyphs and deactivated the sentinels. The team reached the core chamber, a vast hall dominated by a colossal machine, dormant but humming with immense power. This is what they were protecting, Alina whispered. The core was a fusion of energy and matter, a relic capable of reshaping worlds, harnessing energy beyond comprehension. The choice of power. As the team studied the core, debate erupted among the leaders. Should they attempt to activate it? Could they control such power, or would it consume them? Circa warned, power like this is a double-edged sword. It could save the Dominion or destroy it. Malka argued, if we do not claim it, Veshner's loyalists will. We cannot allow that. Lena weighed the risks. We must understand it fully before making a move. But we cannot ignore the threat. The betrayal unveiled. As tensions rose, a shocking revelation surfaced. One of the expedition members, an advisor secretly loyal to Veshner, had been sabotaging their efforts, feeding information to the enemy. The traitor tried to seize control of the core but was stopped in a desperate fight that left the chamber trembling. Lena and Svek confronted the betrayer, who sneered, "You think you can save this fractured dominion? It is doomed." A new hope. Despite the betrayal and danger, the team succeeded in securing the core. They transmitted the data back to the Threnic, revealing the potential to harness its power for defense, energy, and renewal. The secrets of Arcanes were no longer lost. The Alliance had a chance, not just to survive, but to thrive. Moving forward, as the Threnic departed Arcanes, the crew felt the weight of their discovery. The lost secrets were a beacon and a burden, a promise of greatness shadowed by peril. Lena looked out at the stars, determination burning in her eyes. The Dominion's future depended on their choices. Would they wield the ancient power wisely, or be consumed by it? The Threnic cut through the void like a blade as the Alliance's ship raced back from Arcanes, clutching the ancient core and its secrets. But the path ahead was no smoother. The shadow of Warlord Veshner's loyalists loomed larger than ever, their hunger for revenge sharper and more desperate. The final reckoning had arrived, a battle not only for survival but for the soul of the Dominion itself. Return to a fractured alliance. The reception aboard the Threnic was tense. The successful recovery of the core brought hope, but it also inflamed old tensions. Many feared the core's power, while others saw it as the key to ultimate domination. Lena stood before the council, her voice steady but impassioned. "This core can save us," she said, "but only if we use it wisely. It is not a weapon to wield recklessly, but a tool to rebuild." Circa nodded, adding, "We must unite, or all we have fought for will be lost." But Malka was less convinced. Power attracts power. Veshner's loyalists will come for this core. We must prepare for war. The looming storm. The Threnica's sensors soon detected a massive fleet closing in. Veshner's last desperate strike. Ships painted with dark insignias, bristling with weapons, converged on the colony and the Threnica's position. "We have no time," Svek growled, gripping the controls. Lena rallied the crew. "This is our final stand. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every life the Dominion holds dear." The Alliance mobilized. Pilots ran to their fighters, engineers armed turrets, and soldiers took positions. The tension was electric. Battle in the stars. The void erupted in chaos. Laser fire streaked across space. Explosions rocked the hull of the Threnic, and the fleet battled in a deadly dance of destruction. Circa led a squadron of fighters, engaging enemy cruisers in dogfights, while Malka commanded ground forces defending the colony from boarding parties. Lena coordinated the defense from the bridge, her mind racing through tactics and contingencies. The heart of the fight. In the midst of the battle, The core began to pulse with energy, responding to the chaos around it. Alina Merrick worked feverishly to stabilize its power flow, warning, if the core overloads, it could destroy us all. The saboteur's earlier betrayal lingered as a painful reminder. Could they trust their own sacrifice and resolve? When enemy forces breached the Thrinic, Svek led a fierce counterattack. He and Lena fought side by side, pushing back the invaders through the twisting corridors. In a moment of crisis, Svek sacrificed himself to seal a bulkhead, preventing a catastrophic breach. His final words echoed in Lena's heart. For the Dominion, for the future. The turning point. With Svek's sacrifice fueling their resolve, the Alliance pushed back harder. Malka's ground forces overwhelmed the enemy on the colony, and circus fighters crippled the flagship of Veshner's fleet. Lena, drawing on every lesson learned, directed the Thrinica's final strike, a calculated surge of core energy that disabled the enemy command ship. Victory and loss. As silence fell over the battlefield, the cost was clear. The Thrinic was scarred, the colony damaged, and countless lives lost. But the enemy was defeated, their fleet scattered. Lena stood on the bridge, her gaze steady despite the grief. "We survived," she said softly. But survival is only the beginning, a new dawn. In the aftermath, the Alliance began rebuilding with renewed purpose. The core's power was harnessed carefully, used to restore infrastructure and protect the colony. Circa addressed the gathered survivors. The Dominion has endured through darkness and despair. Now, it will rise stronger, united, and free. Lena joined him, adding, "This is our chance to forge a future where peace and strength coexist." Legacy of the Bone Wars. As the Thrinic prepared to explore new worlds, Lena reflected on their journey. From fractured enemies to a unified alliance, from ancient secrets to battles won and sacrifices made, the Bone Wars had reshaped their destiny. The story of the Dominion was far from over, but the final reckoning had shown them the power of unity and hope. The path forward. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a canvas for their new beginning. Lena, Circa, Malka, and the survivors stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The lost secrets of Arcanes were just the start. Together, they would write the next chapter in the Dominion saga, one not of war and conquest, but of peace and prosperity.